Iron resolve, Thatcher's pivotal moments. Even as a young girl hailing from the humble setting of a grocery store managed by her father, Margaret Thatcher already exudes an air of iron-willed determination. She refuses to bend and conform to the expectations that society sets for girls during that era. Instead, she crafts her own path towards greatness that many could not even fathom. Known for her no-nonsense and sharp intelligence, Margaret convinces local politicians to allow her to take the entrance examination to Oxford University. Despite reservations due to her gender and her working-class background, she is undeterred. She toils day and night until she achieves her goal and gets accepted into the prestigious institution. This crucial part of Margaret's story highlights her disregard for the well-trodden pathway for women, choosing to forge her path in the world of politics and education. At Oxford, she meets the Prime Minister for the first time during a political event. She boldly makes a declaration to her friends: one day, she will occupy the highest office in the land. Her friends laugh at her audacious claim, but Margaret remains undeterred, her resolve unshaken. This moment stands as a pillar of her tenacious spirit, which would follow her throughout her journey to become one of the world's most influential leaders. But her path to leadership isn't smooth sailing. On the contrary, it's fraught with scorn and ridicule. Many dismiss her ambitions as wishful thinking, a dream that stands far beyond reach for a grocer's daughter. However, Margaret Thatcher proves these naysayers wrong. She battles opposition from all sides, refusing to match the norms and traditions that constrain her. After graduating, Margaret enters the political scene with a fervor unmatched by her peers. She faces election after election, many of them brutal and unkind to her. Yet, she stands resilient in the face of adversity, weathering the trials and tribulations to carve her place in government. Finally, Margaret achieves the impossible. She rises to the coveted position of Prime Minister, an emblem of her iron resolve and unyielding pursuit of her dreams. From grocer's daughter to revered world leader, Margaret Thatcher's early life is a testament of the strength of her character. This narrative underpins the tale of a woman who starts amidst humble beginnings, defies societal norms, triumphs over adversity, and rises to great power. Margaret Thatcher isn't simply the Iron Lady, she is the embodiment of hard work, perseverance, and audacity in a world that often refuses to recognize such qualities in women. Her journey from a small grocery store to the highest office in the United Kingdom isn't just inspirational, it's nothing short of extraordinary. Lady of Steel, the Battle of Thatcher's Leadership. Margaret Thatcher, now holding the position of the Prime Minister, draws the world's attention as she imposes a radical, liberal economic policy, shocking both the nation and the world. Economic change sweeps across Britain, where she advocates for free market dynamics and privatization of numerous state-owned sectors. All this soars against the winds of widespread socialistic policies, creating a storm of controversy that marks her as a powerful reformist. Margaret's indomitable spirit is tested during one of the most challenging and unexpected episodes of her political career, the intrusion of Argentina into the Falkland Islands. The conquest of this small British territory bears its teeth, sending shockwaves eroding Britain's legacy and its international image. But in true Thatcher fashion, Margaret stands firmly on her ground. The decisiveness is unparalleled. The armed conflict, despite its high risks, is initiated with a sharp battle strategy that she refuses to disclose even to her closest allies. The world watches as Margaret, unmoved by the doubting voices, treads fiercely into the battlefield. A bold move no one saw coming from the grocer's daughter, she sends the magnificent British Navy halfway across the world to reclaim the islands. The Iron Lady defines her leadership during the warfare. The Falklands War lasts for 74 days, each day showcasing her unparalleled resolve. The conflict ends with victory, marking the first considerable military win by a Western power since the end of World War II. Margaret Thatcher shines in the spotlight as not just the Prime Minister, but as a respected victorious warrior on the global stage. However, the Iron Lady's leadership does not stop at the battlefield. Domestic unrest looms in the form of the miners' strike. Margaret takes on the powerful trade unions head-on, refusing to bend to popular demand. She persists with her radical economic changes, facing vehement opposition and hostility. Her unwavering focus on reshaping Britain into a global competing power strengthens her position as an iconic leader. Margaret Thatcher's era is a whirlwind of bold decisions, both in foreign policy and domestic reforms. Her audacity to take on battles, her resolve as she weathers the storm, and her resolute gaze towards the future all consolidate her legacy as the Iron Lady. As she continues to lead, her steel resolve continues to redefine the discourse of power and leadership in contemporary politics. Defying gravity, Thatcher's unwavering stand. Margaret Thatcher, observing the political landscape of her time, realizes that the nation appears to lose its grip on its firm international standing. The political climate turns tumultuous, with the late 20th century seeing the Cold War's pervasive influence. Her relentless grit doesn't waver, nor does her determination to reinstate Britain's global clout. The world watches as the Iron Lady stands across the negotiating table from some of the most powerful political figures of the time. She squares off against figures such as the United States' Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev of the Soviet Union. Much to everyone's surprise, Margaret Thatcher doesn't merely hold her own, but shines as a dominant presence, leaving her indelible mark on the annals of international diplomacy. Among their many clashes, one episode stands glaringly prominent. Margaret Thatcher adamantly refuses to acquiesce to America's demand for installing nuclear cruise missiles in the United Kingdom. Thatcher's determination leads to an intense standoff with Reagan, an ally. The world gasps at her audacity, which ultimately compels the United States to compromise and respect Britain's stance. Abroad, she steadfastly advocates for establishing closer ties with Gorbachev and the crumbling Soviet Union. Despite skepticism and scorn from her contemporaries, she insists on the importance of improving the UK's relationship with their Cold War opponent. Margaret Thatcher perceives the changing tides of the world's political landscape, realizing the possibilities locked behind the Iron Curtain. In an era where female leadership at an international level remains a rarity, Thatcher's diplomatic prowess amazes the public. Defying norms of gender and class in international diplomacy, Mrs. Thatcher reinforces her powerful standing on the world stage. The Iron Lady deftly uses her political acumen to navigate through tumultuous times while safeguarding Britain's interests. Witnessing Margaret Thatcher's era paints a unique panorama filled with an unstoppable force, navigating through perilous diplomatic waters. Her audacious stances, her ability to play with the big boys and hold her own, and her vision of a globally competitive Britain act as a testament to her unique and compelling leadership. One that positions the Iron Lady rightfully as one of the most impactful and formative figures in the annals of British history. The Iron Curtain falls, Thatcher's final stand. As Margaret Thatcher's era in the office reaches the twilight years, the political landscape undergoes a seismic shift. It's the late 80s, and the world watches as Thatcher faces her ultimate test: the crumbling of the Berlin Wall and the subsequent demise of the Iron Curtain. In a world redefining its boundaries, Thatcher finds herself at crossroads requiring difficult decisions to make. The collapse of the Berlin Wall alters the balance of power around the globe, leading to swift political and economic changes. Thatcher, unyielding as ever, takes on the challenge head-on. Despite the worldwide relief and celebration over this mark of the Cold War's end, Thatcher foresees potential dangers intertwined with this geopolitical transformation. She worries about German reunification, voicing her reservations bluntly for the world to hear. Her candidness takes her international counterparts by surprise and creates disagreements within her political circle. Meanwhile, the domestic landscape turns volatile. Margaret Thatcher, known for radical economic reforms and bruising encounters with trade unions, unveils her most contentious policy yet: the poll tax. The proposition shakes the public, sparking outrage and protests across the nation. The Iron Lady, however, remains steadfast, illustrating her unbending character even amidst escalating unrest. But time and tide wait for no one. Thatcher faces an uprising within her party, leading to an unceremonious exit from the office she held with an iron grip for 11 years. However, even in her departure, she remains dominant, stepping down only on her terms. Thatcher's influence on the Conservative Party continues, shaping its core ideas and values long after her departure. Thatcher's reign of power ends, but her trailblazing legacy as Britain's first female prime minister stands unbroken. From the cold corridors of the Berlin Wall to the echoing protests against the poll tax, Margaret Thatcher's final years in office remained charged with political and personal battles. But as she had done all her life, the Iron Lady stands grounded, embodying the essence of unwavering strength and resolve, a testament to her unparalleled leadership. Beyond premiership, Thatcher's undying legacy. Even outside the gilded realm of the office of the Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher continues to influence her party and the nation. Margaret's departure from Downing Street isn't a retreat into oblivion. Instead, it marks the beginning of a new phase wherein Thatcher starts to shape her legacy and make her indelible mark on the world. One of the significant turning points is Margaret's pivotal role in the tearing down of the Iron Curtain. Despite her initial reservations about the reunification of Germany, she takes the lead in welcoming Eastern Bloc countries into the fold of the European Union. She firmly believes that their integration could bring much-needed stability to the continent after the Cold War's end. However, she also shows her deeply ingrained contrarian spirit when it comes to attitudes towards the EU. Resolute as ever, she stakes out a highly skeptical perspective on the expanding role and powers of the EU, something that has since deeply influenced Eurosceptic factions within her own party. As such, Margaret Thatcher continues to shape Britain's political discourse even beyond her term. Meanwhile, Thatcher's influence in matters of British domestic policy doesn't wane. The principles of Thatcherism, a robust commitment to free markets, privatization, and deregulation, still guide the policies of the Conservative Party. Even though there is public backlash against some of her policies, such as the infamous poll tax, her underlying ideology remains a powerful driving force within the UK's political landscape. In summary, Margaret Thatcher's journey doesn't stop with her leaving the Prime Minister's post. Instead, it traverses beyond it, leaving an indelible influence on multiple geopolitical facets. Thatcher's latter years illustrate how her persona, the defying spirit and the unyielding belief in her core ideological principles, continues to impact global politics while drawing the roadmap for the future of the Conservative Party and the United Kingdom.